I recently set off on an overnight adventure camping trip to explore some beautiful hot springs in Arizona. The purpose of the adventure was to test out some new gear while also documenting the ride. Episode 4 of this 4-part series will be focused on my tires I've chosen to use for the first leg of my big trip this summer, as we finally make our way to the hot springs we've been heading to over the last 4 episodes. So I'm in the middle of this little mini adventure right now. The adventure itself is only lasting 2 days and 1 night, however it's spanning across 4 videos. The purpose of this little journey was for me to test out some of my new gear and equipment, so I've been incorporating that into a vlog style series, where I kind of share a little bit about my adventure and what's going on and finding a campsite and heading out to these hot springs, while also taking each episode to kind of focus on one of the pieces of gear that I'm testing out. Today is primarily a vlog about getting to the hot springs. However, I'm going to try to focus my conversation on these tires that I'm testing out. Now, I'm getting ready for a big motorcycle trip with a lot of off-road, so I wanted something with a little more grip in the dirt. However, I know I'm going to still be doing a lot of pavement, so I don't want full-on knobbies, at least not to leave home with. I will probably switch to something a little more aggressive once I get into the areas where I'm going to be focused mostly off-road. For the first leg of the trip, I'm going to be leaving with the Shinko 705. Now, I just had them put on a couple weeks ago, and I've managed to put just about 1,000 miles on them. So this is by no means an in-depth, long-term review, however, more of a first impression review. And I have had a chance to test them out in everything short of rain and snow. I've had them on-road, off-road, highway, twisties, soft sand, dirt, mud, water crossings, and a couple other things. Now, if you haven't seen the other 3 videos in this series, I definitely recommend that you check them out, even if you're not into the gear. It's been a pretty fun adventure and seen some pretty cool things so far. I'll leave a link in the description box below for all the videos in this series, and I'll link to a little playlist for it too. Anyways, if this is your first time meeting me, my name is Tim Collins. This is my YouTube channel, 40 Times Around, where I talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. Banana chocolate chip. Never tried this one before. So the sun is finally peeking out over this mountain that I camped under. So trying to let my tent dry because there was some frost on it, and it's still a little damp. I don't want to pack it away quite like that. It's pretty good. So I'm gonna give it a few more minutes, see if I can get this to dry out as I kind of organize this. This was not my most organized trip. This trip wasn't about how to pack for this long trip. Rather, this was just to test gear, so I didn't put a lot of focus on how I packed everything. I just kind of threw it together at the last minute before I took off from home. It's making a huge difference, so I think there's a lesson here. A little bit of organization and planning ahead of time on how you pack, keeping things neat and together. It avoids this situation where what I used to do when I traveled before I got organized, I'd be reorganizing, repacking almost every day, readjusting things. When you get packing cubes and you have everything neat and compact, everything kind of has its place, and it just runs a lot smoother. It's like a well-oiled machine. Not like this, so don't do this. Use packing cubes. is easily my least favorite part of this trip. Coming up right around this corner here, it just gets rugged. It's almost impossible to pick a nice line. Should have gone left. These tires are doing a heck of a lot better than my street tires did on this. This is the worst of it, but there's a pretty hefty decline coming up that should be a pretty good test of the traction on these tires. I got this bike pretty well loaded down, so we'll see. Something I noticed the day I picked this bike up with these tires on it, there was a very noticeable wobble, just kind of like tracking, basically, like the handlebars were just kind of doing this. It was a little unnerving at first. It took some getting used to. So what I decided to do to get myself used to it was just get going at like 45-50 miles an hour and throw cruise control on. Take my hands off the handlebars, and sure enough, I mean, you can see it, you know, going back and forth, but it just tracks straight. It just goes forward. It just wants to go forward. So, you know, that was comforting. That was a good little experiment to build up some trust with these tires on the pavement, at least. So beautiful out here. Wow. These wildflowers are awesome. I've never been out here this time of year, I guess, because I've never seen them quite like this in this area. Although I was kind of expecting it, because I've been seeing them all over Arizona in the last couple weeks. Wow. Look at that. That is great. So while we enjoy some of this scenery, let's talk a little bit about the Shinko 705 Dual Sport tires. First off, there's a bit of a discrepancy on percentages here. RevZilla says 80% street and 20% trail riding. However, Shinko's website is giving it a 70-30 split. I would typically go with the manufacturer on this, but I think RevZilla might be a bit closer to the mark on this one. Shinko boasts a versatile tread pattern for wet and dry weather adhesion and smooth running on highway. I can attest to the highway, however I have no experience in wet weather with these tires yet. Shinko says it's M and S rated, meaning mud and snow rated. Now, I'm not too sure about this. I'll test it out when I get the opportunity, and I'll definitely let you know. I don't think it's going to be really great in mud on a big heavy bike like this. Maybe if you were on a smaller dual sport bike. Now I have a 5-point rating system that I'm using to rate tires, and those points are overall value, on pavement performance, off pavement performance, wet conditions, and any notable wear. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I only have about 1,000 miles on these tires, so key point number 5, notable wear, I really don't have much to say on that one. As far as overall value, I will say, of course I don't have long-term use to really go off of on this one, but the price of these tires is so low that I really don't know how you could go wrong. I got a set of tires for less than $200 for my bike, and normally I pay anywhere from $400 to $500 for a set of tires. So right out of the gate, even if these tires don't last quite as long, even if they last half as long, they're still a better value than the more expensive tires I've been buying. As far as key point number 2, on pavement performance, like I said, there was a bit of a tracking issue, and wobble is probably the wrong word. It was just a slight vibration at the handlebars, and I'm maybe a little bit overly sensitive to it. But like I said, with cruise control on and no hands on the handlebars, it just tracks forward and it just goes straight. This threw me off a little bit in the twisties, but I actually got pretty comfortable with that, dipping around on 89A, which is a really curvy road up in the mountains from Prescott to Jerome. After a few miles on the twisties, I really got pretty comfortable, and I felt like I was just on regular street tires and was really leaning into the curves and just really going after it, and felt very confident on these tires on the pavement. As far as off-pavement performance, I would say these tires are much better than the street tires I have been using for the last 3 or 4 years, at least when I'm on gravel, dirt, hard-packed roads. I did hit a little bit of soft sand in a few sections, and as a matter of fact, I was out riding with somebody about a week ago, and he was on an F800 GS. He had TKC 80s, and I was with the Shinko 705s through the same terrain on relatively similar motorcycles. Through some really soft sand, his tires definitely performed better than these. I was getting a little more sway in the steering, just didn't have quite as much control over the bike as he did. It was definitely manageable and certainly much better than street tires. I haven't seen too much mud on these tires yet, but there were a few water crossings and these tires handled it great. Again, wet conditions, I don't really have much to say about this, but I would be willing to bet they're probably going to be pretty solid in the rain. So again, this was really just my first impression of these tires. I only have probably about 1,100 miles, 1,200 miles by the time I'm done with this trip. But I did want to talk about them a little bit, as this was kind of my opportunity to test these tires out and see what I can really get away with on these things. Anyways, here we are at Sheep's Bridge, so let's go ahead and check this place out. So the hot springs are awesome. It definitely was the cherry on top of this little adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along for the ride with me. As always, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already. That way you don't miss anything whenever I post something new about motorcycles, camping, travel, and adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.